What if the hunger you've been trying to satisfy was never about food? This might sound strange coming from a dietitian, but after years of working alongside women, I've learned something. Sometimes we eat because we're physically hungry, but sometimes we eat because we're emotionally exhausted. Sometimes we eat because we're lonely. Sometimes we eat because we're overwhelmed. And sometimes we're trying to fill a hunger that food was never supposed to satisfy. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Body and Belonging, where we break free from food guilt, calm down the food noise, and rediscover joy at the table. I'm Jamie, a registered dietitian, and each week we explore the deeper reasons why we struggle with food and why we have such a hard time feeling like we belong in our bodies. I blend gentle nutrition with nervous system awareness, and I teach you biblically rooted health principles to move you away from dieting and restriction and into care and nourishment. So grab a seat at the table and let's dive in. Today, we're wrapping up our Body and Belonging reset, talking about what lasting freedom actually looks like. And guess what? It's not a new meal plan. And I make meal plans, but it's not a new meal plan. Over the last 4 episodes, we've renewed our mind, rebuilt trust with our bodies, practiced presence, and learned to replace criticism with curiosity. Today, I want to pull these pieces together in part 5 because at some point, every woman asked me the same question. Okay, but what should I actually eat? And while I love talking about nutrition, I think there's an even more important question. Who are you becoming as you eat? One of the reasons I don't start with meal plans is because most women already know the basics. Drink water, move your body, include fruits and veggies, eat some protein, include more whole foods, choose whole grains over white. None of these ideas are groundbreaking. Information isn't usually what's missing. Peace is. You can eat the most perfectly balanced meal in the world and still leave the table anxious, guilty, and disconnected. Health isn't only about what enters your body, but it's also about the posture of your heart. And here's the thing, an imperfect meal eaten from a peaceful place does more good for your body than a perfectly crafted meal eaten in anxiety. Science continues to affirm that our bodies respond differently based on the state of our nervous system. When we're rushing, when we're disconnected, when we're eating under a cloud of shame, everything from digestion to satisfaction is limited. That doesn't mean every meal has to be perfectly peaceful. Life with kids and jobs and schedules isn't always quiet. But when you are able to create little moments of calm, maybe a deep breath before your first bite, or a little prayer of gratitude, or a slower pace that allows you to savor what you made, these small rhythms remind our body that we're safe enough to receive nourishment. Here's a lesson that has only grown more meaningful over the years. Sometimes what we're calling hunger is actually longing. Maybe you're longing to be seen, longing to be comforted, longing to be encouraged, longing to be rested, longing to belong. Food is wonderful, but it cannot satisfy needs it was never created to meet. Recognizing that isn't failure, it's wisdom. And once we can identify the true need, we can begin meeting it in a life-giving way. Call a friend, take a walk, whisper a prayer, rest, ask for help. Food shouldn't have to carry the weight of every unmet need. Another thing that I want to point out as we wrap up this series is that your body is deserving of respect at any shape or size. Listen, you do not have to love where your body is at to choose to treat it with respect. Think of it this way. If you wear a size 8 shoe, you don't spend your life trying to squeeze into a size 6 shoe. That wouldn't make sense. Even if they were super cute and your favorite color and brought you joy every time you would see them, you still wouldn't try to squeeze into a size that wasn't yours. but yet we try to do that with other areas of our body. Every body has its story. It has genetics. It has strengths. It has challenges. Respecting your body does not mean giving up on growth. It means pursuing health without demanding that your body become someone else's. Your calling isn't to duplicate somebody else's body. Your calling is to steward your own. Throughout this series, we've talked about awareness. There's been repetition. You've maybe asked yourself similar questions in a similar way, but just a little differently at the end of each. And think of each of those as dominoes. Similar, but placed in slightly different places. See, real transformation rarely happens in one dramatic movement. It starts with a small decision, one renewed thought, one curious question, one mindful meal, one compassionate response. And these tiny moments build and build on each other until one day you realize your relationship with food, and maybe even with yourself, has quietly changed. So as we wrap up this mini series, I want you to reflect on these questions. What belief about food have I released? What new habit am I beginning to practice? What kind of woman am I becoming? Notice those questions aren't about weight. It's about identity, because lasting change is always rooted in who you believe you are. In Matthew 5:6, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." I don't think that's a promise only for the future. It's also a promise for today. Our deepest hunger, our longings, they were intended to point at something beyond food. They're meant to point us to a God who can alone satisfy our souls. And as that deep hunger is met with the compassion of Christ, food begins to take its rightful place. Not as the enemy, not as the savior, but as a good gift. If you've listened to all 5 episodes of this series, first of all, I'm deeply humbled and very grateful. Thanks for letting me walk beside you on this journey towards belonging. My prayer is that you've discovered this journey isn't really about eating perfectly. It's about learning to live differently. And food is just our playground for that. It's an invitation to slow down, to notice, to trust, to receive grace, to remember that your worth was never earned by the choices you made at the dinner table. You already belong. And from that place of belonging, you can build rhythms that nourish both your body and your heart. If this series encouraged you, please share it with a friend or leave a review. It helps other women find this podcast. And if you're ready to go deeper, this is exactly the work we do together inside my one-on-one coaching and inside my Body and Belonging mentorship, where we move beyond the information and I hold your hand as we continue to walk out this transformation through faith, gentle nutrition, and nervous system informed health. I'll see you next time.